Hello and welcome to VIP Boxing's Bell to Bell podcast. This week we're on episode number 70. We are veterans now at this, I suppose. As always, if you leave us a review, that'll be fantastic. YouTube, whatever, just say good things. That'd be great. You know me, Steve Lillis. John Evans is in the top corner there with that poster he has behind him every week. With us today is, a regular on the podcast, a man who's held every license apart from the MCs. We still don't know whether he's going to get himself that. Jon Pegg, how are you, John?
All good, mate. It's always good to be on here with you pair, talking boxing.
Yeah.
Nice and fast. It makes a nice change.
Good. So how are you? As a matter, you know what? Just one question, because it's not on the topics tonight, and something we've discussed a bit, and I mentioned you last week on the pod. About September, you said to me, but it's still not great, but by November, it's going to be getting back to normal. It'll be a lot easier for us matchmakers. I don't think it is from what I'm hearing.
It's not as easy as it was, but it is getting better. One of the main problems is a lot of the foreign boxers really ramped the prices up because a lot of new matchmakers come in who was paying them that money, and now they won't budge. And then also another problem is matchmakers who don't do their own shows, they want to stick to the big money COVID prices, whereas people who are doing their own shows are kind of like, we've got to get back to normal, otherwise we're all going to cripple each other. So there's about four or five of us who are all kind of saying, right, that's the price, that's the normal price. And when we're desperate, there's a few people who are going, oh, but this is, and we're like, yeah, but you're not having to have 3 days off work and sit in a bubble now. Yeah, so you can't ask for that kind of money. And it is slowly getting back there. I've matched 2 of my own shows and only had a couple of real hiccups where silly money's concerned. On the other show, it's more the fact that there's so many fights going on, shows going on.
Yeah.
It's more than ever. The lads who are there, it's the same kind of lads that was there, and the good, reliable ones are becoming reliable again. But it's the fact that there's so many shows, so everyone's kind of like trying to outbid each other.
Yeah, I've heard a couple promoters, I'm not going to start naming them because I don't know if it's true, are killing the market with what they're paying, figures that don't add up. How much of a problem is that, John, for you all?
Well, it can be a problem because I rung somebody up and I said, is so-and-so available? And he says, oh, he got this amount for a 4-rounder last week. And it was like 3 times and more than what you would get anywhere else. And I went, okay, no problem. I says, well, you know, when you're booking my lad next week, I says, are you paying that? And then he was like, whoa. He kind of backpedaled then, you know what I mean? So you've just got to say to people, okay, if that's what you're going to charge us, you do know what that you're getting charged that. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, if there's a nice payday out there for lads, great. But people have got to realise it's not the norm. The quicker we get it back to the normal, the better.
John, you know, because there's so many shows, and I think people's attitudes have changed to watching boxing on TV and stuff. What do you think's the ideal number of fights now a card should have? Because we see 12, 13. I've seen 13 once, but 12, 11, 10, 7 or 8 seems about right to me.
You'll have seen 13 before the pandemic, but there's a limit on the pandemic.
There's a limit now, isn't there?
Yeah. And the York Hall can only have 10
because of a change in facilities.
Yeah, I think for a small hall show, I think it's more to do with the arena. If you've got an arena up to 900, 1,000 people, 7 fights is perfect with a decent title fight. If you've got more than 1,000, if you've got like a small, like an old Aston Villa Ledge Centre, by all means go up to 10 or 12. But if you're going to try and keep the fans in there, which you should be trying to do, and not just kind of put them through a conveyor belt as their guy wins a 4-rounder, they move out. If you're trying to keep them in like we do with a title fight at the top of the bill, you need to make sure the arena fits the amount of fights. Like when we do shows at Aston Villa Holt Suite, we do 7-fight shows, very rarely do more, because to get each lad selling and building up a nice crowd, it only works up to 7. Any more than that, and it's kind of diminishing returns, and it doesn't add up anymore. So I think it depends on the arena rather than the show. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was working at Kevin Marie's show on Saturday night, and he was slated for 12 fights originally. Then it was down to 10, and there was a couple medical issues, and that it went down to 8. And I thought that was ideal. Started at 6:30, finished just after 10 o'clock, and there were 2 stoppages.
The only trouble with 8. Oh, sorry, John. Go on.
No, go on, John. You're the guest. Go on.
The only trouble with 8, Steve, is like on a small hall show, it's the worst number you can have because up to 7, your doctors and your officials are in like a certain bracket. The moment if you have a 4 twos, one extra 4 twos on a 7-fight card, it will cost you about an extra £1,200.
Wow, I never knew that. So that one extra fight, I mean, he was still 10 till Wednesday. I mean, there was one medical issue there with a boxer that wasn't bad. And what annoyed him was they had the medical reports weeks ago and didn't look at them till Wednesday. So
yeah. Well, if you have 7 fights on, it's 2 doctors at £500 each. If you go 8 to 10 fights, it's 3 doctors at £600 each.
Wow.
You get an extra referee. And there's also a chance that you'll get an extra timekeeper, or you might have to pay the other timekeeper time and a half. And that's all for that 8 fights. Wow. So if you're going to have 8, you may as well have 10. Do you know what I mean?
Well, fair enough then. That's mad. I didn't know that. And that's why people should listen to this podcast, because what it's about, what things like this are about is people like you, John, telling people, even those of us who work in the game don't know. So fair play. That's interesting, that. Anything else to add, Mr. Evans? Sorry, John.
No. The only reason I was wondering is because there's so few opponents, so obviously a lot of them are going the distance, so they can be available the following week. I've been to a couple of these long shows, and even the officials, you can tell they're getting bored of it, after 6 or 7 40-36s and a 60-54. And the shows just seem like they're dragging a little bit. So I'm just wondering, with this new era, with the way things are changing, is it time to just cut it down, make things shorter, sharper, with a good main event? Save the undercard for that. But you just explained it about the venues,
show. We had a 4-round show 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And basically what had happened, the show had been cancelled that one of my kids was fighting for a Midlands title. And he's 30 years old. It's his world title, basically. And so I says, we'll put you on the next show. He's got a holiday of a lifetime booked in New York 2 weeks after the show. So I've literally had to put a show on just for his Midlands title. I've done it in a small venue that holds 500 or 600. I put 3 other bouts on, matched them decently. We sold 7,500 tickets. Yeah. So we done the 3 4-rounders. I had a little talk about the Larry Holmes, Jerry Cooney show we're doing. We basically took an hour. I thought, well, we've got a good 10-round fight now that will hopefully take us another hour. Everyone's got the money's worth. The kid only walks out, never scored a stoppage in his life, lands an absolute right hand from God and wins in 2 minutes. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, we've got an hour and 20 minutes. The only good thing was the kid who'd sold all the tickets won the Midlands title in absolute great style. So his fans was happy anyway. Yeah, I was like, oh, man, what happened there?
Oh, brilliant. Well, I think we're going to go press on now. And I think the first one, you got all your bell and everything ready, John.
Ready.
I think the first fellas you're going to talk about, I don't think they know what the Midlands area title is. But you fire away, John, with round 1.
I don't know. Canelo probably fought for one of his little belts when he was 15 years old, didn't he? Over there, just over the border. But I'm wondering what you two think about all the rumours about Canelo Golovkin 3. From watching Golovkin at weekend, it was an exciting fight he had with Murata. It was great to watch, and Murata did pretty well. But for the first time, I thought Golovkin looked old. He slowed down a little bit in his last couple of fights, but Murata was hurting him badly to the body, wasn't he? He was landing at will almost. And it just took a little bit of the steam out of his third fight, something I never thought I'd say. The first 2 fights between them had so many questions, didn't they, surrounding it. But I honestly think the only question about a third fight would be, can Golovkin last the distance? He's going to have to go up a weight. He looked old. He was getting hurt badly for the first time. And it just took a bit of steam out of it for me, seeing how he looked on Saturday.
I don't want to see it at all. No. It's like the third Jeff Fenwick Azuma Nelson fight for me. It doesn't make any difference to either of those guys' legacies. It's not a fight I want to see. The results won't really mean a lot to me because, like you say, it's just whether you can get the distance. It should be 1 each. It's not 1 each. Don't worry about it. 2 great fights. Don't tarnish the legacy for Golovkin. And Canelo has got bigger fights than that. At his stage, you've got so many fights left in the career. Don't waste a 3-month camp and a big super fight on a 40-year-old who deserves more respect than that. That's how I look at it.
Look, I'm the same as you. I don't want it to happen. I'd love to see him go out at the top like Kawasaki did after his couple fights in America against, albeit faded, Jones and Hopkins. Love to see him go out. Love to see him go like Lennox Lewis did on that heavyweight war against Vitaly Klitschko. But you know what? And it's me being cynical with boxing, and you know it, John, you're in the you've forgotten more than most of us know. That fight still generates a lot of money. People will still buy it. Unfortunately, I'll say. You say there's super fights out there for Canelo. Maybe Berterbi, if that's still one of the richest fights for him out there. Golovkin 3, and I agree with you. You've nothing to prove at all, Golovkin. I still think he'll look at it, Canelo. He's a businessman. Eddie Hearn will look at it as a promoter, and they'll think, well, hold on here. We could go in September in Las Vegas, and we'll fight him for the third time. We're going to pack out whatever that venue they go to, do business on pay-per-view. People will watch it. There'll be us boxing hardcore, not wanting it. And, if not, who does he fight in September? John Ryder, maybe. They're talking of. So I wouldn't be surprised if it happens.
I totally agree, but I didn't agree with Roberto Duran fighting William Joffrey either. And it's the same kind of fight.
Yeah. That's the sign.
Round 2, one you wanted to speak about, John, but I had it on my list as well. IFL, I Film TV, I Film London. I just want to say, I'm going to be really, really honest here. When they started out, I can remember them with Jane Couch and Coogan turning up in press conferences, and I thought, how on earth is this going to work? Okay, I'm old. I'm 60 years of age, so it's not my style of journalism. I've got a print background. And I thought, how it's going to work. But what I do want to say is, boy, that it's changed things. How the media works in boxing. I think now, got to know Coogan very well. James Helder, who was with him before, was a great friend. Was a good friend of mine on the road. We still speak occasionally. I just think how well it's done. A billion hits last week, and all I can do is give it respect and say, even if it isn't the style of how I'd interview someone, it's done so much for boxing. When you go in the pub and someone who's a boxing casual says, I was watching that on IFL, it's fantastic. It's absolutely brilliant what they've done. I mean, I was on Box Nation for a good few years, and you wouldn't go in a pub and a casual would say, I watched the interview with so-and-so on Box Nation. But they talk IFL. I think they've done absolutely fantastic, and all credit to Coogan. James Helder was there before him, and all the team that's with him now. I think it's been brilliant for boxing, and I've been proven so wrong.
Yeah, I don't think it's proven wrong. It was just an unknown, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I suppose there's things happening now where we look at them and think, well, that's unknown. How can that work? But it was an unknown that the new technology made huge. You know what I mean? It's like, if that had been there 20 years before, I've got no doubt that's what you would have been doing, Steve. Do you know what I mean? Look how you're adapting.
Right. Yeah.
Look how you're adapting now with what we're doing here.
Yeah.
I think it's just humans adapt. So when something new comes along, they find a way to do it.
What do you think, John? It's made, how's it made your job? Has it put more pressure on fighters to want to stay undefeated because we don't want people criticising them on this, or has it made it so that the big fights become more important and you work harder to get the big fights made? How has it changed your job?
I'll tell you where it's not changed so much like that, because fighters who want to fight. Fighters who don't really want to fight don't really want to fight. But the problem being is, because some of the guys who do this are either friends or fans, which is okay, but they're not really like interviewing fighters like they're a fighter. They're interviewing them like they're the next big thing. I've actually had 2 people pull out because they've watched, not IFL, but watched another similar kind of thing and said, oh, this guy's an absolute killer, because they've interviewed them like hero worshipping them, and it's made them look absolutely brilliant. And I'm like, really, they're not that good? Not as good as what you think. But yeah, so that's the only problem. Whereas a proper dyed-in-the-wool journalist interviews a guy and explores his background, whether it's good or bad. Some of the guys do it a little bit more,
What it has done is it's created a lot of monsters, guys that just do interviews by email as well. But that's another topic for another day. And don't get me started. Round 3, something we touched on last week, John, about scoring knockdowns. Good to hear from you on this.
It's a little bugbear of mine, because you see people on social media, on the forums, and they say, oh, it was a 10-8 round because he scored a knockdown. And I'm like, no, it's not. A knockdown is worth a point. And they say, no, because I say, if you've got someone who's narrowly winning a round and they score a left hook, a flash knockdown, that makes it 10-8. Now, if that person's narrowly losing a round and they'd scored the exact same knockdown, people score it 10-8. That means, and that exact knockdown is worth 1 point in one situation and 3 points in another situation. When people say a knockdown isn't worth only 1 point, it's how you judge it. No, it's not, because if you score a second knockdown, everybody universally scores it 10-7. If you score a third knockdown, everybody universally scores it 10-6. Now, if these knockdowns were worth 2 points or 3 points, like people are mistaken, a double knockdown round will be a 10-6 round. 3 knockdowns will be a 10-4 round. Doesn't even happen. Knockdowns are worth 1 point. And when you're scoring rounds and arguing about them, you've got to know that. If someone's losing a round and they score a flash knockdown, technically it should be 10-10, maybe 10-9 at worst. But it's not an automatic 10-8, and that's where people really annoy me when they talk about it and they don't understand it.
I'll throw to Johnny. I'll be very quick. I brought this up last week, John, a similar thing, and I referred to Tommy Frank Craig Derbyshire, where Craig's absolutely walking the 5th round and he gets dropped by a little knockdown, good shot to the body, and everyone scores it 10-8. He was walking the round. What do you think, Mr. Evans?
Oh, I agree 100%. Yeah, we mentioned it last week, didn't we? And the worst cases are where someone's winning a round, nothing much happening, but, they're on top, and then it's just a flash knockdown, where it's a clip on the top of the head, the knee touches down, and instantly on TV, the scorecard comes up, and they've lost around 10-8. Yeah, you're dead right.
So they're saying
Johnny.
that knockdown's worth 3 points. It's
exactly,
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's such a massive swing for what can just be a flash knockdown, the only clean shot the other guy lands in a round. And yeah, it's dead right. We could also get back into even rounds and stuff. People don't seem to score even rounds anymore. But if you're losing a round but you score a knockdown, what's wrong with a 10-10?
It should be 10-10 because a knockdown is worth 1 point. A second knockdown's worth 1 point. If you're winning the round, the exact same knockdown is only worth 1 point. Yeah. Why is it worth 2 points or even 3 points because of how the round's gone? It's really annoys me, really, especially when people discuss it like they know exactly how it works.
The 2 knockdowns like that cost Craig Derbyshire the British title 10, 11 days ago. There you go. Round 4 over to you. A bit of Conor Benn, John.
Yeah, Conor Benn and Van Heerden. I've seen a bit of criticism about this Van Heerden matching for Conor Benn. And yeah, it's not the sexiest fight in the world, is it? It's not going to get people on the edge of a seat. But I just think it's pretty smart. If you think where Benn came from a long time ago, they're not going to put him in a fight he can lose until it's a world title fight. I don't know why people have even got that in their minds. Ben's going to be kept unbeaten, unwinning until that world title, ideally a winnable world title fight, presents itself. I just think it's pretty smart, really. He gets to go against a guy who's durable, who's been in with someone like Spence. It might have been years ago. He gets to work on different things. Yeah, I don't see what's wrong with it. I think we've got to remember where Benn came from, where the final destination is, and this is just another stop on the way. It's just the way Benn's career is going, and I don't really see too much wrong with it.
No, they're doing a good job there, and Conor Benn is one of the few fighters who have actually been developed. Yeah. The way that Frank Warren used to be famous for taking a fighter and developing him and getting the right fights, the way he probably learnt off Mickey Duff, that's kind of gone out the window in the last few years. It's kind of become like a fast food franchise. Get them in, throw them in a big fight, put them in an even one. If they lose, move them on, get the next one in. Yeah. Conor Benn is one of the few fighters that has been properly developed and has actually improved because of that development in fights.
Do you know what I think Benn's benefited from, John? There seems to be matchmaking these days. It's all done on comparison. He beat him. How's he going to do against him? Can he better his result against him? Whereas Ben's been kept away from that and just brought along his own path. I think there's too much comparison in matchmaking these days.
Yeah, I've been saying for ages, John, and I've said it on the pod when we first started out on this. He's been the best match fighter in Britain. You look at the matchmaking, like who was the guy he fought on the Headingley cricket ground, I think it was given a hard 10 rounds, real great learning fight. And, people are going in 2-footed on Van Heerden. As you say, it's not the sexiest fight, but the last few years, Chris has beaten a procession of club fighters and Africans with padded out records, but he's still not lost, I don't think, since Errol Spence. When was that? 7-8 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah,
Van Heerden's a tough fighter, and he's been around.
Yeah, Yeah, Van Heerden, he's going to keep coming and keep coming and keep coming, isn't he? And we get to see something different from Benn. Molina went the distance by staying away and just not getting involved, but Van Heerden does get involved. So you get to see something else. Can Benn take out a durable guy who's been at the weight for years? Yeah, I just think it's getting like I say, it's not going to have you on the edge of your seat, I don't think, but I think it's a solid test for Benn.
Yeah, they're good match, mate. Look at the Sammy Vargas. Took Khan 12 rounds, dropped him, balled him in for Benn, jumped on him, knew he was faded and did him in the round. You saw how I saw Vargas' last fight. So, and he was faded badly, great matching. Round 5, Daniel Dubois, the hell Don King could cause for him. I just don't know what to make of this 3.16 million that Don King's bid for the fight against Trevor Bryan, the WBA regular champion. I mean, he beat Frank by $700,000, which isn't just how you should win a purse bid. And Don's got history of just delaying these fights, delaying it. The WBA have said it's got to take place by July 28. Don King's already talking of going to court first because he don't agree with a 55-45. And you know what? I'm worried about the effect this has on Daniel because he can't fight now. If he goes and has a fight now, Jon Pegg will correct me here, because he's got this fight mandated. He could lose it. That fight, if we went had another fight, and he could be stuck now, Daniel, till the end of this year. And what's worrying me, since he got beaten by Joe Joyce, was it November 2020? He's had less than 6 minutes of action. And he could go into this fight next year, later this year, so undercooked, and it really worries me for him.
I just don't get Don King's about 107 years old. He's got no time to be delaying things. You know what I mean? You think he'd want to get a heavyweight title fight as quick as possible. When's he going to do another one? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, he needs Bryan to somehow get past Dubois and just cash out against the biggest name possible, doesn't he? I can't even begin to imagine where he's plucked that figure from. How many tickets will he sell in America?
I don't get
he's not going to get his money back, is he?
Don King is obviously still a wealthy man, the amount of money that he nicked off boxers and stuff like that. What I don't get, if he's doing this, he's doing it for a bit of like nostalgia, ego. He's, at 90, he's doing it because he enjoys it. He's not doing it for the money. He's got more money than he could ever spend. Why don't he just get the fight on? Yeah. If you want to put a heavyweight title fight on to feel like a big time promoter again, don't delay it for a year. Don't mess it up. Just put it on. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I don't get it.
It just really worries me for Daniel here because he needs rounds. And, look, I'm not saying Bryan is any sort of a great heavyweight, but to go into him with just 6 minutes of action in maybe 2 years by the time the fights come around, can put you at a disadvantage.
You think there's any tactic in maybe dragging it out long enough so that Dubois is a very dangerous mandatory, isn't he? Do you think there's any sense in dragging it out so that Dubois gets bored and goes a different route and they can get an easier fight?
That's possible. Frank might have to go that route because Frank's in the Dubois business long term, not short term.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to drag it out so he goes off and does something else and they defend against another Don King guy or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all there. Round 6 over to you, John. It's flown by this tonight.
Yeah. Right. What I want to talk about here, because I was at the Midlands Area Council meeting yesterday, and I believe it was like the last of the Olympians who are actually going to go pro. I think there's one left, Charlie Davidson, who's staying amateur. Ben Whittaker was in there getting his license. Now they've all gone pro, and some of them have had a fight or two. Who do we think's going to really shine out the crop of the record-breaking crop of Olympians we've got? I really think, for me, the pick of the crop, the one who I think for circumstances and what she can do, I think Lauren Price is going to be the one that everyone says at the end of it, man, she's really done something there. I think she's something special.
Yeah. I agree with you because she can be rushed, win a world title very quickly. She could almost be a bit like Lomachenko, win it third, fourth fight, whatever. You could match her. She was outstanding at the Olympics. She's obviously outstanding. She hasn't rushed into a decision. Of the others, Galal Yafai has already got a fringe belt. It's inevitable that he'll fight for a world title. I'd say within 14, 15 months. Fraser Clark, you can rush because of his age, and he'll want to be rushed. You could almost Joe Joyce matchmake him. Ben Whittaker, he's going to be the one I think people will watch because he's got that bit of Marmite personality. So whether he does it or not, but people might watch him just to see him get beat, and some will like him. I quite like him myself, but I know he's not everybody's cup of tea. He's the sort of guy who might do a James DeGale on his debut, get in the ring, throw his amateur vest in the crowd or something. Or
I was going to say exactly the same. I think for the way the sport is these days, Whittaker could probably get the most eyes on him. Galal may be the most talented, but he's going to be in hard fights, isn't he? He's not going to sail through that flying super flyweight divisions untouched. He was getting touched in his debut. Lauren Price is the most talented. The Welsh people will get right behind her, won't they, as well? She could be headlining in Cardiff.
I think she can go up and down the weights as well.
Yeah.
So I think Lauren Price might be the most accomplished. Ben Whittaker might have the most eyes on him, and Galal Yafai might just be the most talented. So I think.
What about McCormack? What do you guys think of McCormack?
Yeah, training with Ben Davidson. He's apparently, from what you hear, Richard Schaefer says he's the next. Did he call him the next De La Hoya? Was it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think.
But phenomenally talented. But if he sticks to the game, if he stays motivated,
that's what I hear. I mean, I don't know him, but that's what I'm told. It's just sticking at him and keeping his head down. I think when he's at Ben Day, he'd have his head down. But you can't watch these kids 24/7. And, it's down to him what he does. Peter McGraw will have to see. Caroline Dubois, she was there, wasn't she, at the Olympics? Yeah. She could have a very, very good career.
Yeah, it's an interesting crop. I think we'll see some champions by the end of it, 2 or 3 years' time.
I always wonder what Fraser Clark's going to do, because I remember an interview with him a year ago, and he was, I got the impression to him, it was all about getting in and out as quick as he can and amassing as much money.
I think he'll be working on the TV, on the punditry afterwards. He's a real character, Fraser is.
Yeah, he's a nice fella, and I just wonder how quick. I think he's one who'll be happy to move really quick as well, John.
Yeah. That's fine.
All right then, fellas. Well, that flew by again this week. Jon Pegg, would you come on again in a couple of months?
Yeah, whenever you need me, I'm there, mate.
Yeah, and congratulations to your daughter getting so much TV work as well. That's fantastic for the proud family, I guess.
Yeah, she's doing good. She's having good fun.
That's good. And John Evans, thanks to you. Thanks to the Hearns Duran poster that reminds us every week about. I don't see what that one is there. Is that isn't an Oldham Athletic one, is it?
I'll give you good ones.
We'll have a tour of John's room. John's, I think his office or living room.
The best poster ever made, that, isn't it? Hagler Leonard.
Yeah, you got
Leonard Hearns.
Yeah.
You got Hagler Duran.
We're seeing a real theme here, John.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. But the best one, the pride of thing, is only the hardcores know that.
Whoa.
Yeah, and these are all from on site. These, all originals from the night. No reproductions here. But Salvador Sanchez.
If you was up my way, you'd have to have a Sanchez Caudal poster to be considered special, to be honest.
Oh, yeah. I tell you what, you look at the posters now around Clexy's Hearns Duran. When I was a kid and, growing up, I used to have posters in my room when I was about 17, 18. Fulham football posters on the wall. I had Southern Area title posters from Manor Place bars with Albert Hillman and stuff like that, and Harry Carrop headlining the bill at Elephant and Castle Leisure Centre, and T.P. Jenkins, these sort of guys. The small hall boxers of the 80s. That was me. That shows how old I am. Elephant and Castle on a Monday night, greatest night of boxing ever.
Sham 69 vibrators on it as well.
Yeah, I was pure albums to the punk, and the collection's still upstairs, mate. The punk collection, some valuable stuff up there.
I was more of a scrapbook man than a posters man. I used to keep scrapbooks a lot on the boxing.
Really, I was boxing posters, and I've lost them all over the years. So I've lived in so many places over the years. I've hardly got any now. A lot and a few and that stuff. But my big thing was cricket autographs when I was a kid. Yeah. Believe it or not, I had a book like that with it, and I've lost a book somewhere over the years, and it was incredible, this book. And I used to go to the Oval and Lords at 8:30 in the morning just to get cricketers' autographs when I was a kid. There you go. That's what I do.
We are talking like Viv Richards and people like that. We're not talking like the Surrey wicketkeeper on a Thursday morning.
No, we're talking Jeff Boycott. When my dad would cut out the picture of Jeff Boycott hitting a 4, and he didn't hit too many of them because, you know, Jeff was a bit of a defensive king. And what Jeff used to do, he was a bit of a fucker, Jeff Boycott, right, to get an autograph, right? Bearing in mind, I'm only 5'8". I'm not the strongest kid in the world. Never was. Look at me, you know. And what he'd do, he'd park up at the Oval, right? And he was captain of Yorkshire, so the visiting skipper's fucking car park there, visiting skipper. And of course, they're there for 3 days playing. He'd have this fucking big metal case, right? Heavy for a 14-year-old to carry, or 13 in 1975, right? 76, when he was playing for Yorkshire. Fucking enormous. And you had to carry it right up to the top of the pavilion at the Oval. It was an old wooden stairs, no lifts in them days at the Oval. And then the fucker would give you one autograph, won't give you a second. Anyway, that's a bit of cricket talk. We cover everything on this podcast. I heard
a funny story about Boycott's chest when they were in India. And all the players had food poisoning, and Boycott would never come down to the restaurant to eat with them. But he was fine. He was perfectly happy. And one day someone kicked in his door, and we found him eating a load of Dundee cake and tin beans, and he'd been hiding it all, keeping it from them so that they were all ill, and he was.
He weren't the most popular guy in dressing rooms, Boycott, I don't think, but a great batsman and someone who loved the cricket. I could watch him all day. But there you go. That's my real passion. Cricket, besides Fulham, is cricket. Anyway, thanks a lot, fellas. John, thanks as always for joining us. Thank you, Mr. Evans. And we've got Bradley Ray on next week. He's been on a stag do, and he's been promising to come. He messaged me last week, said he'll do in 2 weeks. So thanks very much, fellas. All the best for the matchmaking, training, managing, John. Thank you, everyone, and thanks for listening.
For all boxing info, news, and latest interviews, amateur and pro, across the north, click and subscribe. VIP Boxing Promotions. Also, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.